Bruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Das Samech Aleph, Amud Aleph, at the very top. Our Mishnah is discussing various things that a man cannot go out with on Shabbos. In contrast to that which we saw that a woman cannot go out with various things, there it was discussing the reason why a woman cannot go out with these things is because she may take them off and walk Dalet Amos in the Rishus Harabim. In contrast, our Mishnah, which speaks about a man not going out with various things in the Rishus Harabim, are for other reasons. Different gezeros that the Chachamim made. For example, the first one the Mishnah discusses is a sandal hamesumar, which, as a result of a certain terrible, tragic event that took place, where many Jews were killed, wearing the sandal hamesumar that caused many Jews to die. As a zeicher to that, the Chacham made a gezeira that we cannot wear sandal hamesumar not on Shabbos and not on Yom Tov. The next thing on the list that the Mishnah says is that a man cannot go out wearing one shoe. However, if he has a wound, he has a makkah on one of his feet, then he could go out with one shoe. Says the Gemara, Hayesh beragloi makkah nafik. If he does have a makkah, a wound on one leg, on one foot, he can go out. The one wants to know, but which foot are we talking about that he can wear the shoe on? Behai meinaihu nafik. Omar Rav Huna be'oisa sheyesh ba makkah. With the very foot that has the makkah, the wound, that's the one that he's to wear the shoe with. Alma kisover sandal l'shum tsar ovid. Obviously, Rav Huna, who says that he wears the shoe on the foot that has the makkah, holds that the purpose of wearing the shoe is to protect the makkah. V'chia barav omar ba'oisa she'ein ba makkah. V'chia barav argues and says, no, we're talking about wearing the shoe on the unwounded foot. Alma kisavar l'shum tanug ovid. Obviously, the opinion of Chia Barav says that you put the shoe on the wounded foot, on the non-wounded foot, holds that the purpose of wearing the shoe is for comfort. And that foot that has the wound will then prove why he's not wearing another shoe. In other words, the fact that he has a wound, that's why he's not wearing the shoe, and therefore there's not a concern that people will suspect him of carrying the other shoe. And similarly, there's not also a concern that people will make fun of him that he's only wearing one shoe, and thereby being concerned that maybe he'll take off the shoe that he's wearing. When it comes to the first opinion of Rav Huna, that says that he wears the shoe on the makkah, on the wounded foot, so similarly, he would hold that it's not a concern that people will then suspect him of carrying a shoe because they'll see that he's limping, whereby that's why he's wearing only one shoe, and the other foot is a foot that has calluses and can be used to walk on the rough road without a shoe. Similarly, people will not make fun of him that maybe why is he wearing one shoe, whereby we're concerned that he'll take off the shoe, because again, people will see that he's limping and he's not going to then take off that shoe. But people will understand why he's only wearing the one shoe. Al Kopanim, the Gemara now says that Rabbi Yochanan is like the opinion of Rav Huna that indeed the wounded foot is what he wears the shoe on. Says the Gemara, Va'af Rabbi Yochanan sovar lo laharav de Rav Huna. Rabbi Yochanan also holds like this opinion. D'omar le Rabbi Yochanan le Rav Shamin bar Abba. For Rabbi Yochanan, he said to his Talmid Rav Shamin bar Abba, Havli masanoi, bring me my shoes. Yohivle the yamin, his Talmud brought the right shoe. Omarle asisoi makkah. Rabbi Yochanan says that you made this to then be determined that this is indeed for the makkah, because Rabbi Yochanan was accustomed to first wearing the left shoe and then the right shoe. The fact that the Talmud brought him his right shoe, whereby he has to put it on his right foot, and he will not be able to then put on his left foot, he's saying to him, you obviously are making it like the person who has a makkah. I'm only going to be able to wear one shoe on one foot, my wounded foot. So we have a seemingly proof that Rabbi Yochanan goes like Rav Huna, that you put the foot on the wounded foot. You put the shoe on the wounded foot. Says the Gemara, maybe you have no proof. Vidilma bechia barav sfivale. Maybe Rabbi Yochanan really holds like the other opinion, like Rabbi Chia barav, that you put the shoe on the unwounded foot, on the other foot. V'hochi kamar, this is what he was saying to him. Asisa shel small maka. When you gave me the right shoe, you made my left foot like the wounded one. In other words, like a person who has a wound, he puts the shoe on the other foot. In other words, he's taking the right foot and putting the right shoe on the right foot, and he's saying, you made my left foot to be the wounded one. So thereby he holds like the other opinion, Rav Chia Barav, that he puts the shoe on the healthy foot and not on the wounded one. The Gemara now says that Rabbi Yochanan, who says you put the first shoe on the left foot and then the second shoe on the right foot, Viz Azdu Rabbi Yochanan Taimei, the Gemara explains that this goes like Rabbi Yochanan according to his own reasoning. The Rabbi Yochanan ki tefillin kach min ha'olin. Just like tefillin is shoes. The same way that when it comes to tefillin, there's a drasha in the Torah that it says in the pasuk Yadecha, referring to Yad Kahei. That means that the Yad which is weak, that's the Yad that you put the tefillin on. And therefore, most people who are right-handed, the left hand is the weaker hand, whereby he puts the tefillin on his left hand. So too when it comes to minolin, says Rabbi Yochanan, the shoes are first put on the left foot and then the right foot, as follows: mat tefillin bismol, af minolin bismol. Just as tefillin are put on the left, so too the shoes are first put on the left. Ask the Gemara from a Braisa Meisvei, kishehu noyel shel yamin v'achar כך noyel shel smol. When he puts on a shoe, the order to put on a person's shoe would be first to put on the right one and then the left one. So we have a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan who said the opposite order. Rav Yosef hashta detanya hochi, Rabbi Yochanan hochi. Since we have a brisa like this, and we have Rabbi Yochanan who says otherwise, the assumption that Rabbi Yochanan is not arguing on a Tana, he also has some sort of brisa. Then the avid hachi avad, the avid hachi avad. If a person did like this or like that, it's acceptable. Whether he puts on the first shoe on the right side and then the left, or he first puts on the shoe on the left side and then the right. Omar le Abaye, Abaye says, wait, you have no proof that you can go either way, because Dilma Rabbi Yochanan homasnisa lo have a shmielei. Maybe Rabbi Yochanan never even heard this brisa that says you should first put on the shoe on the right foot and then the second shoe on the left foot. Vi have a shmielei have a hodarbe, because if he did hear it, maybe he would be chayzer and agree with the brisa that says you put on your right foot first. Vinami shmielei, or alternatively, even if he did hear the brisa, the kasavar in halacha moisa mishnah. Maybe he argues and said the halacha is not like that mishnah that says you put on the right one first. Maybe he maintains his position that you put the left one on first. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok yorei shomayim yotzei yidei shteihen. Somebody who's a yorei shomayim, he would be yotzei by doing both opinions. Umanu asked the Gemara, who's the opinion that who is the one who is Yorei Shamayim? Mar Berei de Ravana. Mar Berei de Ravana would do it like both. Ask the Gemara, Hechi Ovid, how can one do both? Either you put on the right foot, the right shoe on the right foot first, or the left shoe on the left foot first. Says the Gemara to explain. Sayim de Yamine Veloikota. He first puts the right shoe on, but he doesn't tie it. V'sayim de smole v'kota. Then he puts on the left shoe and then he ties it. V'hoder kota di yamine. And then he goes back to the right shoe and he ties the right shoe. In other words, he's able to mekayim both of them by first putting on the right shoe and then the left shoe. And then he's also mekayim the left first by tying the left before the right. Omer Rav Ashi chazina l'Rav Kahana deloy kopid. Rav Ashi testifies that I saw that Rav Kahana was not makpi to do one way or the other. Says the Gemara bringing a following brisa. Tonu Rabbanon. Kishehu noyel shel yamin, v'achar kach noyel shel smol. When a person puts on his shoe, says the brisa, he first puts on the right shoe and then the left shoe. He gives chashivus to the right before the left. Kishehu choletz, choletz shel small v'achaka choletz shel yamin. When he takes off his shoes, he takes off the left one first and keeps the right one on, and then he takes off the right one, because that also gives chashivus, importance, to the right one. Kishu roichetz, roichetz shel yamin, v'achakach roichetz shel small. When he washes his hands, he washes his right hand first, and then he washes his left hand afterwards. Kishehu soch, soch shel yamin, v'achakach shel small. When he wants to anoint his hands with oil, he first puts oil on the right hand and then oil on the left hand. The conclusion of the Bryce is, and if he, however, wants to anoint his entire body, he first puts the oil on his head, because the Rosh is the most chashuv of all of his Eivarim, and therefore that takes precedence. The Gemara now quotes the Mishnah that says a man does not go out with his tefillin on Shabbos. Lo b'tefillin. Omar Rav Safra, lo teima alibo deman da'omar Shabbos lav zman tefillinhu. Don't say, he says, that this is according to the opinion that says Shabbos is not the time to put on tefillin, and therefore when he goes out, therefore it's osir. Ela filu leman da'omar Shabbos zman tefillinhu. Now there's a machlokes tanoim whether Shabbos is man tefillinhu. So he says, even according to Man Da'om, who says Shabbos is yes a zman of tefillin, and a person does wear tefillin on Shabbos, even according to him, lo yetze, he should not go out. Why? Because dilma asi le'asuye b'rishus harabim. Because maybe he will then have to then relieve himself in the Beis HaKisei, and in those times the bathroom was outside in the fields, and thereby he'll have to then take off his tefillin, and maybe he'll walk Daled Amos in the Rishus HaRabim. So therefore the Chachamim said it's prohibited to go out wearing tefillin on Shabbos. The Ikedamasni La Seifa, there are those who teach this on the Seifa of our Mishnah as follows. The Seifa says the following: V'im yotza eino chayiv chatos. If indeed he went out, it's not going to be a chiyuv chatos, it's not an Isser D'Oraisa, it's an Isser D'Rabban, it's Poter Aval Osir. Rav Safra lo teima libo demanda omar Shabbos zman tefillinhu. Rav Safra says, don't say this is according to the opinion that tefillin is zman tefillin. Shabbos is zman tefillin. Ella, and that's why he's not chayiv chatos, because Shabbos is zman put on tefillin. Ella afilu man da omar Shabbos lav zman tefillinhu. Eino chayiv chatos. Even according to the opinion that says Shabbos is not a time to put on tefillin, still he's not going to be chayiv chatos. My time, what's the reason? Because derech malbush avida, because he wears the tefillin even if he go out, although it's not the zman of tefillin, but he wears the derech malbush, and therefore it will not be an Isser D'Rabbanan to go out with tefillin. The Gemara now quotes the next item in the Mishnah that says a person cannot go out with on Shabbos, referring to an amulet that is not written, and it's not she'eno mina mumcha, is the lashon of the Gemara, of the Mishnah. Lo b'kamiyah bizman she'eno mina mumcha. Omar Papa explains that which it says in the Mishnah without a kamiyah that's bizman she'eno mina mumcha. Lo teima ad de mumcha gavra u mumcha kamiyah. Do not say that it's because it's not both a expert person who wrote the kamiyah, who has a track record that his writings of kamiyah are indeed tried and proven, and also that the kamiyah itself is tried and proven. Don't say there has to be both things, and that's the kavan of the Mishnah. Ela kivan de mumcha gavra af al gav de loy mumcha kamiyah. What it means to say is that which it says in the Mishnah that's not min ha mumcha is referring to not the writer of the kamiyah is not a writer who is considered to be an expert who has a chazak of writing kamiyahs. That's what it means. But if it was indeed somebody who was an expert in writing amulets, kamiyahs, then one could, yes, go out with it on Shabbos. The Gemara now says, Dekanami, you can also prove that indeed we're talking about over here in the Mishnah that a person who was not an expert, he did not write this. But again, if he was an expert who wrote a kamiyah, then indeed you could go out with that kamiyah. Diktani, for it says in the Mishnah, This is the wording. V'loi bekamia bizman she'enoi min hamumcha. You cannot go out with a kameya in a time that's not min hamumche. V'lo ketani bizman she'enoi mumcha. It doesn't say a time that it is not referring to the kameya itself, but rather that it's not from a mumcha, referring to the writer of the amulet. Shma mina, indeed we can then derive from our Mishnah and prove that we're referring to that the writer was not himself an expert, and that's why you cannot go out with the kamiyah. But the diuk, of course, is again, if it was somebody who wrote it that was an expert, had a good track record and a chazaka of writing kameyas, then indeed you could go out in the Rishus HaRabim with a kameya.